Hello.
Hey, David. So, Kellen, in the meantime, I'll ask you the new resolver feature in VLLM. This was, so if I remember correctly, it was Chen from IBM who led the
Yeah,
coding, right?
yeah.
And do you have like already an example of how it's going to be used, like with a YAML in Kubernetes? Like, are you going to use persistent volume? How are you going to load the adapters? Anything like that?
When I played with it, I used GCP feature, but I mean it should work in Kubernetes. I used GCS Fuse, which just takes a GCS bucket and mounts it as a volume. But you could do the same thing with a persistent volume. You could just mount it and
Yeah.
have the directory there. So then any other ML job that's going to generate LoRa adapters would just drop it into that volume and the VLM server should be able to pick it up. And I actually did that. I left my VLM server running and I added adapters in flight and it was able to do that or able
Yeah.
to serve it. It was really cool. I'm actually super jacked about it.
Yeah, it sounds good. I just like I guess we'll get to it. So we have a topic in the agenda. I just added that
Yeah.
the topic on the multi-pool management, which I do want to add sooner or later. So I'm okay with
Yeah.
waiting if we want to first make sure that this new change is adopted and so we don't do things twice. But yeah.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Um, let's give it like 2 more minutes to give a chance for people to join and then we can start. Okay, so I think you can get started. So let me share my screen with the agenda. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So hi everyone, this is October 23rd, and this is Gateway API Inference Extension meeting, or with the updated name, Inference Gateway meeting. Uh, by the way, this week I've seen there is a different project called Inference Gateway, so we should probably pay attention that people are not confusing those. So before we start, please keep in mind that this is a CNCF governed project. Everything is recorded, so be polite, be nice. And with that said, let's get started. By the way, we had this issue of recordings were not available during, I think, almost like at least half a year. So this is fixed. Everything is there in YouTube. So just that you are aware of, in previous meeting, we told you that you are being recorded and be nice to each other, but this time it's for real. So be nice and polite because this time it's really recorded and uploaded to YouTube. So let's get started. I don't think we have any action items. Yeah, we don't have any action item from previous time, so we can start right away with the proposal of Bob.
Yeah.
Do you want me to make you co-host so you can share your screen?
It would be better if I can share my screen.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah. So I will be sharing this. Sorry, I just shared this doc yesterday, so maybe a lot of you didn't get time to review it. And this is shared actually after there's another multi-inference pool level redirecting similar thing, but they are composable. Um, and also for this, the use case is mainly for we want to do the model name rewrite. And second, we want to do traffic splitting at the inference pool level. So the proposed, so there are mainly two things. First, if we want to do the model rewrite, we need to have a place to write the config map. And in the stock, we propose to use a new API, a new CRD to record that map. And another thing is since the model name is in the request body, we need to do the body mutation. So another important thing for this proposal is we propose EPP should execute the body mutation since it's already like parsing the body and do a lot of things. And this is option one is also like the preferred proposal. And here we define a new CRD called the inference model rewrite. If you have better name, just feel free to comment. But we also have a section for the naming discussion, but this one currently is the best we have. This name is coming from Rob. And also here we define, basically you can think of this as similar to the inference model we deprecated before. And in this, we have a pool ref, which means it can, the inference model rewrite can only like bound to one inference pool. And also we have the rules here. The rules will have the matches, which you define how to match your requests. And also the targets. The target is mainly, the most important thing is the weight and also the model rewrite. For the model rewrite, you can rewrite to whatever model the model server is really serving. Yeah, and also the key points is like the EPP should watches the inference model. Because EPP already bound to an inference pool, so it's naturally it can like watches all the inference model rewrite bound to the inference pool. And also EPP should parse and modify the model field before it sends to the model server. Yeah, and that's it. This should be an example CRD example like YAML file, we will define, and we will have a pull ref. And if the request coming from the end user have the model name food review, and you can see you can say like we want exact match, and then the EPP will handle this to rewrite to the food review v1 and food review v2. Yeah, and another consideration is maybe we can use a config map, but like it's also similar to like a new CRD, and it has pros and cons. And also we discussed we are thinking about should we like put into a like new controller, and currently we think maybe EPP is the best place to do this. And also, I just want to present. I know Nir will also like talk about the other design doc. I just want to talk about how these two can compose together. For example, we have like two inference pools, and for inference pool A, we have the model server is serving base A and full model. And the inference pool B is serving base B model and bar model. And then we have a request coming here. The request will only have the model name full here. And first, the request will go to BBR. And then in this proposal, like we will have a mapping to tell like BBR will know like which inference pool we should direct the traffic to, and then BBR will like add this header to indicate this for inference pool A. And then the request comes to the HTTP route, and we will have something like this to leverage the HTTP route to route different inference pool. And then it will go to inference pool A here. And then third is this proposal proposed is like EPP. We'll receive the request from the inference pool A, but currently it only have the full model in the request. And then we will do the traffic directing and model rewriting here. And like it's based on percentage, and then probably it will go to full v1, and then the model server will actually receive the full v1 after the EPP. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I didn't see the hands. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So first, I think this is a good idea. So when we initially deprecated the inference model and we started discussing it, one of the first suggestions was to do it using a CRD. So I think the direction is good. One question that so there were two questions that came into my mind. One you answered before I was able to ask. So there is the new proposal of changing BBR that I published, which you got it correct. So the intention is to be able to manage multiple scenarios. If we do have multiple inference pool and we do want BBR to help us with choosing the right pool based on the model name. So the second point, so first, I think we should definitely try to converge the two proposals into one, because we do want things to be composable in an elegant way, and it looks really related. So maybe we should do like a session together to align things, make sure it's very, very aligned. The second thing is, have you considered doing the inference model rewrite in BBR itself? Because BBR is also reading the body, right? The model name. And then we can do everything there, including changing the body. And then EPP is not even aware of that, which keeps the inference model rewrite optional. So if we do want to have it, then we do all the needed changes in BBR itself, including the header and the body changes. But if we don't want to enable model rewrite, so we keep this feature optional, we can just keep EPP as is, because I'm not sure all users of inference extension would like to do model rewrite. I mean, it's useful, but maybe not for everyone.
Yes, that's a good question. For BBR, yeah, BBR can do the body mutation there. But here we're also proposing the traffic splitting, and especially like you want split traffic within the inference pool, and it will be a little hard for BBR to do it. Yeah, that's the main reason. But yeah, we can.
So I think, at least from what I remember, the traffic splitting when we had the inference model CRD, it was like just doing some randomization of an integer, and then, like,
Yeah, it was weighted random. That's right.
yeah, it was very simple. So I think it could be done in BBR. So basically, you have in the CRD the names of the target model, and you have the probabilities that can be calculated, and then it's just like a random calculation and selection. I don't think that's an issue to include it in BBR, but maybe I'm missing something. Yeah. Anyway, these are the questions, but we can think on this later.
Cool. Yeah.
Rob, you're next.
Yeah, sorry. I think this is, I agree with other comments. I think this is good. I was hesitant. I've spent a lot of time trying to think, is there a better way we can do this? Like, obviously, I would love to just do this with HTTP route. I would love to have it so you could get it before HTTP route. I spent a lot of time trying to think, like, could you attach this at the layer of body-based routing instead? For example, like that was really compelling to me. Also trying to fit it into the request header modifier that HTTP route already has. Like, can we do that? Unfortunately, even that was an uphill battle, because the way most proxies implement request header modification is after they do a call out. And so that's not really helpful if you're trying to get this change in before it gets to endpoint picker. So although there are alternatives here, I feel like this is the best one available to us. I do like that this is a pretty focused API. One of the things with Inference Model is it had a lot of different things going on. So an API that has a very clear purpose, and I expect a lot of people will be able to use endpoint picker without touching this, but it's a useful capability that people can add on if they want. So yeah, that's a long way of saying that although it feels like there should be a better way to solve this, this is, I think, the best possible way that I can think of. So I am supportive of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any other hands. So this is a very new proposal. So I think it would be good if we let the contributors and people to just take this week and come back with comments if they have any. But anyway, Bob, let's try to sync at least between us this week to make sure the two proposals are aligned.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic in the agenda is, so I don't know why I called it evolving BBR. So it's actually the main topic here is multiple management. So if we want to manage multiple inference pool scenarios in a scalable way, so I'll start with what we have today. Today, let's assume we have two inference pools, and each of them may have like distinct set of LoRa adapters. The way to do it using HTTP route is to configure a rule in the HTTP route for every adapter in any of the pools. So if we have like 2 pools, each of them with 10 adapters, we need to configure 20 rules in the HTTP route. And considering the fact that LoRa adapters are dynamically changed or could be changed, this brings some issues. I think it's not so scalable. And ideally, I would like to have like Helm chart, the Helm chart that we deploy Inference pool. I would like to have HTTP route deployed along with the Inference pool with some rule to configure based on a header to the proper Inference pool. So we can either do it manually as it is now, or we can deploy a single HTTP route with a single rule per Inference pool using the Helm chart. So for doing that, we need to be able to route to the correct pool with no like independent of the LoRa adapters. So in this proposal, I propose to move the problem from the HTTP route. So basically the HTTP route today, in such scenarios, it holds a mapping of a LoRa adapter, assuming the adapter name is unique, a mapping from the LoRa adapter to the pool ref, or to the pool name. So basically this proposal suggests to move this mapping from the HTTP route CRD or CR to BBR in memory. It's kind of similar to what we do with mapping of inference objective, what used to be inference model in EPP. So we have CRs, but we reconcile everything and hold the mapping of what we need in memory. So the initial proposal was to try to leverage the config map we have today that the LoRa Syncfor sidecar is using. So this is the config map that the LoRa sidecar is using, which is basically, it mentions the LoRa adapters of the pool. Kellen, I see your hand. One minute. Give me one more minute. And the initial thought was that we can try to leverage that and just use this config map as the source of truth in BBR to map from inference pool to its LoRa adapters. And then we just hold it in memory in BBR, whatever request comes into BBR. So it's one BBR per multiple inference pool. Whatever request comes in, we do a lookup in memory, and then we have this mapping from LoRa adapter name to the pool. We just add the proper header, and we should be all set. So, and it has some advantages in doing that. The main one is that this solution is scalable. So before letting Kellen, so one of the main comments, I think the most relevant one, is that in the next VLLM release, there is a new feature that is going to be introduced to help with the LoRa management using the file system. And this, of course, the idea of BBR of this proposal is so current BBR is completely generic, okay? It just gets the request, copies the model name from the body to the header. So the idea in this proposal is to, instead of keeping it generic, to tailor BBR to inference extension needs. And of course, now that VLLM is going to add a new feature for LoRa management, we should align with that and make sure that we have a single source of truth. I wouldn't want to have the set of LoRa per pool twice, once in the file system and another one in the config map. So obviously, this is not finalized yet. We need to sync on that. Kellen, why don't you give us more information on this?
Yeah. So just as a personal background, I love deleting code. Code is a liability, and so when you can delete it, yay. So the syncer I plan on syncing, pun absolutely intended, 1.2 with the resolver. We shouldn't need that, so that's just less liability for us to have to manage, which I think is great. But all that being said, that does push some responsibility in this proposal to the BBR. And so I think we were discussing in here, and you touched on this, is that you would add the directories to the BBR. Wondering, are we concerned about volume? It absolutely scales, but if we have a directory with like 100,000 LoRa's, because the directory is relatively unbounded, are we concerned about performance there? I'm thinking maybe not, because we're just looking at directory names, right? Like, I mean, obviously at a certain point, we're going to hit limitations, but I don't know. I think we might be within reasonable realm. I also really like. I want to say I like this proposal a lot. The one HTTP route per inference model does make sense to me. And then if someone wants to do something more sophisticated, they can just make another route and add other rules. So all that to say, I think this makes sense. One, I was just questioning like the mega scale, like if we're dealing in like 10 to the 6th, 10 to the 7th, but we'll probably be okay even in that scope. I think then the issue would become allow listing and things like that. And are there security concerns with having the BBR mount that model directory? I don't know. Anyways, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I assume we can mount it with read-only permissions to make sure some security issues are eliminated. And yeah, of course, I mean, we do not. I didn't intend, to boil the ocean. I'm not planning on solving all the mega scale issues with this initial proposal, just to get something moving, to see multiple management moving forward, because we do get some requests on this topic, both internally in IBM and externally. Some questions, both in Inference Extension Slack and in LLMD calls and Slack. Itai, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think, Kellen, from scalability point of view, we should be okay. You're mounting the same volume into all VLLM servers, so it's basically a +1 or +2 just to add it to the BBR. My other concern about that is that the assumption is that all servers have exactly the same set of LoRa's. If you start mounting different volumes in order to do some kind of distribution so that not everybody loads the same, then BBR needs to mount all of those volumes and also understand which volume belongs to which different models, because the mapping is no longer, all to all.
Sorry, I was on the different thread about my brain was on the different thread about the VLM mounts. I was thinking BBR would want to actively scan the directory to keep a mapping to kind of solve your problem, because you're right, it's not all to all. One thing you could do is, and one thing VLM does, is it specifies a specific directory. So if we wanted to do something that's operationally simple, like some massive bucket, I'll use GCS just because I'm part of
Sure.
GCP. But if we have that bucket, and then you have your directories split out per base model, that's how VLM would do it. So you could share the bucket, but the VLM instances wouldn't know the difference because they're just on their directory. And in fact, you can even set permissions that they could only read from that directory interact with that directory at all. So you could do the same thing with BBR. You could say this base model maps to this directory, this base model maps to that directory, and so on. And then, the problem is, I'm wondering, is like fetch and scan. Because if I just have a model come in that's just called Kellen's LoRa adapter, and we're trying to go from that to a base model, you would kind of need to scan everything to
Yeah.
find it, you know, with the big O being essentially all adapters you have available in your cluster. So then maybe, sorry, just real quick, maybe there is a
Sure.
case to actively scan, because who knows, BBR isn't all like that computationally intensive. So maybe it's okay to have a background process that does that. It just depends on what your, you know, scale of adapters are.
Do you think another complication is that the file system-based resolver is basically a direct map from a name into a hierarchy, a well-defined hierarchy, well-known hierarchy? But as soon as you introduce custom resolvers or resolvers that do not follow that, in other words, something that looks into an S3 bucket and based on something knows how to, I mean, it reads the settings.json to figure out the actual name of the LoRa as opposed to using some whatever. We're not going to be running all of the resolvers on the BBR as they're written in Python. They could have custom logic. I think we might be introducing a dependency on the VLLM internal resolution method into BBR, which I'm hesitant to do.
You just need to, it's just a directory name, is all that VLLM is using. I was able to rename an adapter. It still used that adapter, the contents were the same, but when I specified my model name, it was just a directory name that housed the adapter contents. So that, I think that standard would just be, you know, use the name of that file, which I think is okay. I'm not, unless you have a custom resolver you're thinking of currently that would break that.
It's completely hypothetical at this point. I'm just trying to figure out, because it does call for custom resolvers, if somebody were to use some kind of a database to store adapters, and then what you would get the row number. I mean, I don't want BBR exposed to all of that potentially complicated mapping logic, resolution logic, which makes a lot of sense in, you know, because somebody needs to write it for VLLM in Python, does not immediately imply that we can reuse the same mapping logic to understand the relationships in the BBR. That's my concern. Very much hypothetical at this point.
Sure.
Just pointing out the dependency between two completely separate implementations, unrelated, each one making their own sort of decisions, and I'm trying to reduce that coupling.
I think the main concern at this point, at least, is let's call it the unknown unknowns, because whoever was involved in VLLM new feature, the file system resolver, is aware of everything. So I think, Itai, correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't involved in that effort. Itai, I guess, I assume you were not as well. So at this point, we don't have enough information to make sure we can make use of that in a scalable way, in an elegant way that nicely fits the proposal as the config map did. So what I was thinking to do, and let me know if it makes sense. So, and of course, I'm taking into consideration that BBR is currently optional, so it's not a must, and therefore people can deploy their own inference pool and play with it. If they want a single inference pool, they don't need it. So I was thinking about starting with a simple implementation that do use the current config map. And as we make progress and switch to VLLM file system resolver, I think that anyway, we need to give like deprecation notification for the config map and the LoRa sidecar in case someone is using that. And then when we make the switch, we can adapt that logic accordingly also in BBR. So I'm thinking this would be the simplest. Otherwise, we just do it like sequentially. Does it make sense?
Sorry, which way?
I'm thinking about starting with simple implementation like V1 implementation or V1 Alpha 1 implementation that that leverages the config map, the existing config map. Because at this point, we do not have the file system resolver in use, and anyway, we need to have some deprecation notice for the config map and the LoRa syncer.
It is in the latest VLM releases. It's been in since May, so it's fairly stable. I've tested it myself, and with deprecating the syncer in the next release, I'm not. I mean, and we planned on deprecating the API in the next release. I suppose that's something we can discuss, but I know the maintainers agreed. I think if we're okay doing that in one version rev, I think we'd be okay with doing that with the syncer here, because as far as I'm aware, the syncer is low use, and we just let people know that, we just will not be releasing new versions, and which is fine, because I don't think the syncer code has been touched since its original implementation. So you could just use an old version. We won't delete those images. But my suggestion would be to use the resolver. I think that makes for a much cleaner implementation. Then there's no config map management. Okay. And then you can tackle the allow listing portion. And maybe that is where the API surface is defined.
Okay, so can we prioritize updating the YAML files of the deployments, the GPU, CPU deployment, whatever,
yes,
to make sure we use that file system resolver? Plus, we also need to correlate that with the simulator, because this is going to affect how the simulator, VLLM simulator, is working, right? So no more adapters in the command line flags. It needs to read it from the file system.
Not necessarily. The simulator is emulating something. It doesn't really matter where you're getting the information from. You're not running the VLLM code anyway, so you would need the actual VLLM resolver either.
Right. But I do need, if I want to test like PBR with simulator in multiple inference pool, I need that functionality, that something in the file system, if we rely on that to do
not necessarily something in the
selection.
file system. It's what you want is the ability to somehow know what is available, whether you simulate this or pass it in as a config map to the simulator, and then the simulator creates a file system out of it.
Yeah, we
can worry about that separately.
Yeah, I think the sim is a pretty controlled environment. I think, yeah, I agree.
Okay, so if it would be possible just to prioritize the update of the current YAMLs to use the file system resolver, and then we can move forward and get rid of the config map also in this proposal. Okay, any other questions on this before we move to the next topic? Going once, going twice. Okay, David, you have an issue.
Thanks, Nir. I think this is a short discussion, basically, and some of it is already happening on the notes. So I bumped into this nuisance when I moved to Istio 28, and I didn't see it before with previous Istio. There is a template file that you use when you deploy an envoy filter for BBR. And the definition there meets the context definition. And there is a comment there that says that it is intentionally omitted to cover for both cases of sidecars and waypoints. But it appears that with Istio 1.28, you cannot omit the context. Now, I looked into the CRDs and into the checks that the controller does and Istio does. And the the controller is lenient, so it allows to omit the context, but Istio does not. It has test data, and they use something which is called user-defined validation, and this user-defined validation has positive examples, negative examples, and they just try to match OCR against them. And if you leave the context out, it fails. So apparently there is an enumeration of contexts, and there is a context called any, which I assume is for any context. But and it solves the problem somewhat halfway. So the BBR pod gets up, but the envoy filter doesn't seem to be invoked properly. So I'm not sure what to do about that, and I wanted to alert the community and also ask some guidance here. So if I want to dig into this issue more, and what people think about it. Did you see something like that recently? Yeah, I guess that was my intention.
Yeah, I think Ellen's question is the right direction to check, at least the first one. So assuming, David, you don't have access to GKE, so I would recommend to start with K-Gateway to see if it works. Although I'm not sure BBR has Helm chart to deploy on K-Gateway. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, one concern, like generally Envoy filter is, or the concept of just plugging your own Envoy config is not broadly supported. So like obviously, like you can't try on GK because we don't expose anything like any equivalent to that. I think the same would be true for K-Gateway, but Danian, you are a K-Gateway expert and I'm not, so I'll defer to you on that.
Yeah, it's not officially supported on K-Gateway, and I haven't tested it, but I do know a user that I think it's our traffic policy that can hook into the basically reference the backend BBR service, similar how Inference Pool references the EPP service. So yeah, a little bit of gray area. Like I said, I know a user that that has it working, but I have yet to test it, and it's not officially supported.
So is it possible to somehow learn from the experience there?
Yeah, do me a favor and jump on the K-Gateway channel and send a message on there just saying, hey, here's my use case. This is what I'm trying to do. At me, and I'll jump in. And if you don't get any feedback from myself or others, then just help me out and send me a Slack DM.
Sure, but it seems to me that somehow this problem should be solved, because it appears from if some user would just try to follow the quick start guide, then he would bump into this problem.
Yeah, that's what I thought this was, right? We're just trying to get BBR set up, and it's just not working on Istio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should.
I'm not sure it works at all. I mean, I'm not sure if it was tested recently, like since we GA'd. Not sure if anyone really tried it.
And David, it's on my list of to-dos. I'm wrapping up some of the multi-port work, and I am just about there. So so that's something that, like I said, I should be able to jump in and help out with. Just trying to wrap up some of this work that is a high priority.
Yeah, we're planning on cutting a release. I think tomorrow is the right day. I'll run through this on GKE today to make sure it works.
Okay, so I'll try to do that. Maybe not today, but soon enough. And if yeah, I think I need some help on that. But just a general question: what was the vision here for the security setup? Because right now it's a simple setup. It's neither sidecars nor waypoints. It's basically a simple setup, simple security setup. There is no TLS termination anywhere, so no sidecars, nothing. So what is the future plan here? And maybe we can take one direction or another. Why it should be covering both contexts, let's say. So I think that there was a vision here, but I'm new here, so I don't understand it completely. Maybe you can help me here.
This is the question around BBR. I think so. I will say that I think BBR has had less attention given to it. As far as the vision, I mean, if the security concerns, I think that's valid. I know that this is something that the AI Gateway Working Group is interested in, the BBR specifically. But I'll let Rob go ahead.
Yeah, +1 on the AI Gateway Working Group. You know, they have a proposal in early stages to cover, I think, what they're calling payload processing, but it is what would I say? Like, I think there's a lot more that can be done here. Just kind of by definition, a lot of these protocols require you to look into the request body, and most proxies today don't do that very well or at all. And so I think having a generic extension mechanism will be very helpful. And instead of the very limited thing it does today, which is pull a very specific value out of request body and set it as a header, I think we should be doing a lot more at that layer. And so I think that's going to come through the AI Gateway Working Group. I don't know yet where that proposal will land. It will probably land here, but it may also land in Gateway. We'll be involved anyway. And so certainly if you have ideas for how we can do that better, I think that'll be huge. One of the huge gaps right now for BBR is there's no standard portable way to configure it. It's implementation specific, how you attach it to Istio or GKE or K-Gateway, etc. I'm hoping that one of the things Working Group AI Gateway can help solve is providing that kind of standard call-out mechanism. So yeah, I think, you know, although it's not had a lot of attention for the past 6 months, I think that's changing, and I think there's going to be a lot more in there. And hopefully one of the things is rename, because the current name is not really reflective of what it's doing or could be doing.
And maybe I'll just add one more sentence to this. So I'm also participating in the Gateway Working Group. So the payload processing proposal, so it's very early stages, but the initial intuition, so the intention is to push it to the gateway level and not to BBR level alike. So we do want to have some mechanism that allows like something maybe in HTTP route or similar structures to do this hook point for pluggable extension points like BBR. And then that would allow us in Inference extension to get rid of BBR. And I know Kellen really likes to get rid of code. So I'd like to make him happy. Yeah. So anyway, but this is very early. We don't know yet if it's going to be successful. So we should probably do some proof of concept to see how it works, if it's okay, and then we should move forward with that. But yeah, let's see.
Sounds good. I think near that you'll bump into the same issue with your proposal as well, because if you use BBR for multiple management, then at least until the other proposals mature and the group advances, the AI gateway group advances with their proposals, there should be some interim solution. So right now it sounds like a nuisance, but still.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so if it sounds from the answers that we're not answering the need, then that was not the intention. Of course, we should solve it soon. We should have a solution for BBR. This is a component of inference extension. It should work ideally on all gateways. Same as inference pool and EPP is working for everything. BBR should do that as well. Especially now that we are trying to build new proposal and use BBR for more things like management of multiple inference pools. Yeah.
I just want to say that I'll try to dig into it deeper, and help is welcome. So please comment on the issue, or if you have ideas, and I will try to jump on the Slack channel and ask people around and ping. Yeah. So thank you. I promise short discussion.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So we have a last topic. So actually, I don't have something very, very concrete to say here. I just wanted to raise this flag that we do have conformance tests open issue. They are starting to pile up, and some of them are really, I think, important. For example, we have a conformance test to make sure the multiple ports that are now part of inference pool V1, we need to make sure that these ports are respected in the gateway. So we have here a lot of conformance tests. So I just went to the open issue. I write here conformance for the search term, and you can see there are quite a few here in the list. I'm not sure which of them is aligned with the latest things, but I can see at least 5 or 6 that are really relevant to the latest code. So just to for awareness, I'm raising this topic. If anyone has capacity and can implement conformance test, it would be good. I think it might help driving also the implementation, the gateways, driving them to make sure things are implemented properly. So just for the context, Istio currently doesn't work well with multiple ports. So we can do DP with Istio at this moment. So this is the context where I started looking on conformance tests. And there are other few important issues. That's it from my side. Any other topic that anyone wants to raise? Otherwise, you can get back a few minutes. Going once, going twice. Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining. You got back 6 minutes. Until the moment I'll finish talking, it will be 5 minutes. Thank you. See you next time.
Thanks. See you.
Thanks.